Hi friends, I am excited to finally present a newly updated Natasha Denona top 5 midi palette video. I filmed this a year ago and I have my thumbnail set up just to see what I included in my top 5. Before we get into it, I just want to mention that I understand, because many comments have brought this to my attention in that older video, Metropolis is considered a midi because of the eyeshadow pan sizes. However, that is a 28 pan eyeshadow format palette as opposed to the 15. This top 5 video will mainly highlight the 15 pan format. So I hope you understand. And yes, Metropolis is my most favorite Natasha Denona palette of all time. So even though you don't see Metropolis on this list, it still reigns supreme. I just wanted to put it out there. Now, my last video that I filmed around this same time last year included the Love palette, Glam Retro, Bronze, Retro, and My Dream palette. I will say that this newly updated top 5 list includes 2 out of those 3, and we have 3 new faves in the top 5 list. And this is top 5. It's not a ranking. It will be cruel for me to rank these 5 favorites. And I know you're like, Alicia, I want to know your favorite versus your favorite. They're all my favorite. That's why they're in the top 5. I will just present them as singles on this top 5 list, and I will have b-roll playing while I'm chatting just so you can see these palettes in action while I explain why they are on this list. And I'll start with one of the palettes that was on my original top 5 list, and that still has to go to My Dream palette. I was bouncing between I Need a Nude, My Dream, and Retro. I absolutely adore Retro for the burgundies, the wines, even the taupes in there, but I still had to include My Dream just for its sheer versatility. The fact that it has a number of different textures ranging from her powder matte formula to her cream to powder mattes. The wet effect is not here, but I think like a sparkling foiled something, her traditional metallic, and maybe like a softer satin. And the fact that it has these roses and still with the taupe, because we have Nurture, which is giving more cool, but it's not so cool. You see that there's a little bit of like a rosy warmth there, like a mauve rose undertone to that shade. And you'll have something like more of like a terracotta going on the more brown side. And then you have this rosy peach. I love those shades when they are blended together with the magenta and the eggplant shades, the duochrome in here, the pinks, or you could go more peachy, goldy pink, or even steer more lavender. Or I guess I would categorize Babies as like a mauve-y, type of lavender. Beautiful shine on that shade. And you'll see on the b-roll that I combined Serenity with Carpe Diem, and I thought that was such a beautiful combination. And I swept Instinct on my lower lash line just to create that haze, but using the magenta shade. And the fact that it's a cream to powder, it's not overwhelming on the first application. You have nice control there with how intensely you would like that color to appear on the eyes. But one of the more practical reasons that I included My Dream on this list still is its inclusion of Blackest Black and Aspiration. Now, my gripe about My Dream is that these 2 mattes tend to be on the drier side, and I have to be careful with what brush I choose to apply these shades on the outer corner. I believe I applied Aspiration on the demo, and I just basically tap it on and not overwhelm the powder, because since it is a little drier, it doesn't have the same movement that's found in Carpe Diem and Familia. Those, I feel, those mattes are a lot more fluid on the lid. Aspiration Blackest Black, they're a little tighter. They don't have that same movement on the lid, but nevertheless, they are here to create that intensity, that smoke, and you can mix and match with whatever shade you choose to. And again, overall, the color story is right up my alley. You can be completely and utterly boring neutral with the palette, sticking to aspiration, serenity, and nurture, right? You can just do those shades there, or you could be more color heavy depending on the mood. And why I still had to include My Dream, I think it's one of Natasha's most exceptionally made palettes, not only from a color curation standpoint, but from a formula one, even with Black is Black and Aspiration, right? I know I told them to kick rocks, but I'm still happy that they're in this palette, which leads me to the next one that was not on my original top 5 because it released last year, and what I have on the eyes now, I'm not entirely sure if you could tell what I'm talking about, but you probably can. No other than the beloved Yucca palette. When I saw the Yucca release, I was beside myself with excitement. You can't go wrong with the khakis and like these mustardy yellows, but you still have the oranges and the browns. Not the wet effect, I keep mixing the two. The sparkly foiled something, a newer formula was introduced in Yucca, and I think mainly found in Komorebi, Elijah, Makia. What do I have on? I have Komorebi on the eyes, and the shine for these sparkling wet effects something is just outrageous. But one of my favorite things about Yucca is how it successfully combines warm and cool, something that I think Zendo wanted to achieve, and I like Zendo a lot, and I had explained in my Zendo review where Natasha was trying to combine those earthy water elements together represented in the shades included in the palette. I think Yucca is more successful in that endeavor because no matter whether I use the orange or even the olive, today I slapped on Calathea, which, oh my goodness, one of my most favorite shades out of the entire Natasha Denona portfolio is a desaturated forest green. I wouldn't categorize this as olive because I don't think it has enough gray in there, but it's a beautiful one and done smoky shade that I happen to combine with Willow today just to bring out more of that green effect on the outer corner. Blended the edges with Acacia for more of like that mustardy, dirty yellow gradient. Plopped on Komorebi on the lid, but took Ixia on the lower lash line. But you see, despite the fact that I combine the orange and the green, it still works out. And also, if you probably saw on the demo, I think I combined Elijah with Calathea or citrine. I forgot what I had set up the eye look with, but Elijah has like that charcoal tone to it. Despite it being charcoal, it still works out. I can't explain why. I cannot. But any which way you decide to combine the shades from Yucca, your eye look will just be stunningly beautiful. You can't go wrong with these earth tones. All right. And something I bring up all the time when I had mentioned Mooncat's collection, I think it was the Midnight Rider or something collection. And Michelle, one of the owners of Mooncat, was explaining how these earthy, grungy tones just don't do well generally. And we were like, whatever, as we saw with Midnight Suns. Limited success. I was happy to see another curation of earthy shades, but with some vibrancy. Yucca, every time I use this palette, it is a wonderful time. And I know some of you had expressed disappointment where you couldn't create distinction or establish distinction because maybe you're just inclined to apply as many shades as possible because they're all beautiful. I 100% get it. But what you can do with Yucca is a color blocking method and just plop on the different shades on different portions of your eyes. But because of the undertones and the textures, it will work itself out. It won't look strange. You don't have to spend 1,000 hours blending. If you want to, 100% do what you want. However, if you kind of just plop down the different shades, the mattes, the sparkling foils and whatever, it will turn out beautifully. And I had to have it on the top 5 this time. I think is one of Natasha's best. Where it will sit in comparison to Metropolis, and you're probably wondering, well, if I have Metropolis already, you could do some Yucca moments 100% because Metropolis has like those 3 cream to powder shades, the teal, the forest green, and the more turquoise, and it also has the orange leaning mattes in there. What it doesn't have are these high shine sparkling foil effect shadows. That palette doesn't have that newer formula. So that is the main difference. But yes, if you are approaching this from a more practical standpoint, I understand. If you have Metropolis already, you don't necessarily need Yucca, because you could generate some Yucca looks from Metropolis. But I just adore having Yucca all by itself, to itself, and just working with these shades. Let's move on to a palette that was included on my original top 5, and it always finds itself there. I always have to include the bronze palette. The bronze release, including that cheek palette, which I wore on the demo as well, just to bring the entire look together. Bronze palette, let me get my words together. The fact that you have these toastier shades paired with the eggplants, that is one of my most standout favorite elements about the bronze palette. Even though it is largely monochromatic, it is largely warm, red tone, orange tone, right? Even if you have like this melon type of a shade, I know it's tough to see with the light. And also the metallics exhibit like that reddish, coppery, pink, rose gold, warm overall, okay? It doesn't matter, because that undertone, that reddish undertone, creates just a beautiful haze on the eyes that you don't necessarily have to rely on a shade like Blackest Black or Aspiration for My Dream to create. You can just rely on the color itself to create that smokiness. And forever I have been drawn to those types of eyeshadow colors, and to have it in something like bronze, for it to be in the Natasha Denona formula with her mattes and her metallic shades and whatever hybrid she got in here, you can't go wrong with it. And I absolutely adore putting on that eggplant cream to powder shade on any of the red tone mattes in here, or any of the regular more warm brown matte powders in there. It finds its way to stun city. And when I combine it with the bronze glow and cheek palette, which was not a favorite amongst the Natasha Denona crowd, it wasn't as well received as I think her tan bronze and glow or her other cheek quad palettes. That one though, with that putty texture, I don't care if it was tough to deal with. I have the brushes to pick up that texture, and it works out just fine. Those highlighters and creamy types of blushes, whatever, and you saw how it looked on my short, which I can't recall what, oh yes, I was showcasing the Natasha Denona powder foundation product, which I absolutely love. But that look, I mean, you could see how just it's the smokiness, the color richness. Again, it's that like heat, that magma, that fire. And in terms of the formula, just across the board, each one delivers above and beyond. We are now up to number 4, and as I mentioned with My Dream, teeter-tottering between that, I Need a Nude. I almost included I Need a Nude on this list because of the wet effect. That wet effect formula, when I first encountered it from I Need a Nude, was just explosively sparkly. And yes, because I adore that reflectivity, and it really does elevate your eye look no matter what shadow you choose to apply from I Need a Nude, it still overall appeared a little frosty on me. But that was taken care of by the fact that Golden has that same wet effect formula, but in these shades. I had to then replace I Need a Nude, well, it wasn't even on my top 5 in the first place, whatever, with Golden, because for my complexion, for where I am in that part of the skin tone spectrum, this truly elevates my neutral, everyday, low glam eye to the next level because of the wet effects in here. And also, yes, I know Golden is a re-release of her old gold palette that used to include the teals and the whatnot. I'm fine with that. I have explained that at length in my other Golden palette review videos if you want to check those out. I like the fact that we still have the sandy browns, the wet effect in the gold. Some shades, yes, originally found in gold, have their new home here in Golden. But listen, you can't go wrong. This is Nubia, okay? Stop it right now. The shine on this is insane, And even though the base of color is light, I like that because you could just top that on anything. You could wear it on its own. If you wanted a lighter eye, a softer glam eye for day, didn't want to completely overwhelm the lid with a gold color, because if I were to slap on Oro, this would just be in your face, like, whoa, gold lids, hello. If you wanted something softer but still want the sparkle, that's what Nubia does. That's what Fizzy can do. Oh, Fizzy, forget it. Just, I mean, wait in line. Wait in line. It is absolutely gorgeous. Slap on a little bit of log on the outer corner, or use log, the dark brown matte, along the lash line to create that smoke, and any of the different sandy brown mattes, which again, mentioned in my original golden videos, that you have to be a little conservative and not just combine all of them. Maybe for one look you choose teak, and another you choose aria, another sandstone, and then flesh. At most, you can combine teak with the more medium tone mattes for more distinction, or for a softer gradient in terms of smokiness. If you don't want to plop on log, because log will smoke you up real fast, you have the other options there. And in terms of an everyday eye look, I definitely had to choose golden over I Need a Nude for me, because I prefer these shades overall. I prefer the looks that I created using golden over I Need a Nude. As much as I love that palette, I still have it. It's not decluttered, okay? It's a little frosty. I have to be a little more strategic with what shades I choose to use. If anything, I Need a Nude is my Glam 2.0 in my book, right? Because I love the Glam palette, but because it's geared to be more neutral cool, and that palette doesn't have the wet effect, it has more of the metallic shades, which are lovely, easy to blend and leave behind a nice sheen on the lids. But if you want the dazzle azzle, okay, but still want to keep it neutral cool tone, you would go to I Need a Nude. And lastly, you probably know what the last one is, family. I fought for this palette when people were saying it's monochromatic, it's boring, Natasha Denona missed. She did not miss with Xenon. And the reason why I say that is when you fully immerse yourself within the Xenon inspiration, the story, I mean, look at the palette, okay? It's designed to represent the night sky. And when you see the night sky, depending on where you are on the globe, it's not just black with silver stars. I mean, it could be a variety of colors, a variety of textures. And remember, Xenon emerged from the mini Xenon palette, which housed the black matte shadow. And I understand why Natasha did not put a black matte in here. That would have been redundant. And again, or if you don't know, these are magnetic, okay? See from the pinholes, I could just take out Black is Black from my dream and plop it in Xenon if I really wanted a black matte in this palette physically. Despite that, the fact that you have the grays and the navies, I consider gray and navy as a neutral. I love those shades together. And the fact that they're in this palette with these sparkly, arcly shades. Look at this. Look at the amount of pearl in there and the reflectivity and the shine with something like a gray matte shade, and then paired with the more navy. Oh my goodness. It's such a nice escape from regular glam, black shadow with a neutral taupey whatever through the crease. It's nice to create that smokiness. And another element of glam using the gray and the navies. And like I had mentioned with Yucca, or even actually like I had mentioned with golden, we can include them both on this example. Holding yourself back in how many shades you combine using Xenon. Yes, if you keep combining one or two mattes at a time or even more, it's going to end up looking the same. I think you can hold yourself back and are able to then create more variety using Xenon. For example, using Snurt through the crease and then just slapping on one of the more silver shades, right? And then throwing on Splosh or Night Sky along the lash line. Or you go a little more gray heavy by applying Gru or even Cygnus on the entire lid, and then maybe using Blizzard or Flurry on the edges. or you go full on navy gray, snurt on the crease, through the crease, or even ebb on the outer corner. Or then on the lid, you could go snowbow, you go skipped if you wanted a little more multicolor pearl on the lid, or be more straightforward with stellar or rhyme, whatever it is. It's so much fun to navigate. It's so much fun to figure out, okay, how can I make it so Xenon looks don't appear the same every time I use this palette? And that is the joy I find, the satisfaction I gain from using Natasha Denona palettes. They are designed for you to play like bingo with, I guess, which, yes, I know I gotta do the eyeshadow palette bingo. I know. If that were to happen, if I were to play eyeshadow bingo with Natasha Denona palettes, all the looks will be extraordinarily beautiful. There'll be no misses because every color is thought out, curated to be in these stories for our success in creating gorgeous looks effortlessly. And that concludes my top 5. Hopefully the footage helped in providing some perspective and context for these eyeshadow palettes, and hopefully the still shots gave you another angle for how these appeared in natural light and whatnot. I cannot wait to see what Natasha has in store for us in not only the end of year, because we did get Xenon for the holiday season. So it'll be interesting to see what she decides to do for holiday 2024 and see what we got for 2025. Let me know what your Natasha Denona top 5 midi selects are down below. You can rank them, you don't have to. I didn't rank mine, so choose what you like. Make sure also that you like this video. Maybe consider subscribing and seeing more of my face on your recommendations feed. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. Until next time, I will see you again soon.